Welcome to Lift Your Story podcast with guest Barby Ingle, pain patient advocate and author. Hi everyone, I am Lorianne. I am that gal from Toronto, Canada, and I'm with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas. Welcome to our Lift Your Story podcast.
In this episode, we welcome Barby Ingle. She's a pain patient advocate and author. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you. I'm excited to be here and to share my story and to be with you and your audience.
Great. So you live in chronic pain.
I do.
That's just a hard concept for me to grasp. How can someone deal with being in constant chronic pain?
Yeah, and keep smiling, right? It's a tough thing to do and live with, but really I have no choice. I grew up as a cheerleader, and so my dad would ask me, how are you still smiling and cheering and keep going and pushing the crowd when your football team's losing 50-0? That's what it's like to live with chronic pain. It's like your football team is losing 50-0 and you have no choice but to keep cheering. And for me, life is the game, and I'm still here. I wake up each morning, so I have to find a way to make each moment the best that I can until one day I don't wake up and I'm in heaven.
So, basically you've come to a way of your own to compensate for what you're feeling.
Absolutely. And I did that through practice and very many difficult days. I still have difficult days at some points. A lot of points I have difficult days where I am just not able to get out of bed. I've learned to take the guilt off of myself. If I have to use a mobility device, I don't allow other people's guilt or their feelings about me using that device to better my life affect me. And that took time to grow and learn and to be understanding of myself and what I face. And the next person that has chronic pain that's next to me, they are going to have a different journey and a different story. Some of the same challenges, but each of us has to find ways to face it in our own ability and using the tools around us. And I've chosen not to let my own guilt or other people's guilt affect how I handle myself. I just live each moment to the best I can and do it guilt-free.
That's pretty amazing because, I know like my mother-in-law, when she was elderly and she was pretty vain, and she would fight using a walker or a cane. But she needed it. She needed it, but she just didn't like it because she thought it made her look old. Well, she was old, but just in her mind, she wasn't. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Right. Well, I think a lot of that just comes from the stigmas of society, and that, you might be perceived as weaker, or, if you need a tool or you need to take a moment or a day or a week and spend it doing less, that's somehow bad or shows that you're lazy. But really, those tools are there and created and invented to give us more life. And so I'm sad that your mother-in-law had those feelings, but I do understand them, and I do see them in a lot of other patients. And things I had if I can tell a quick little story. A friend of mine, she was going to a graduation of a relative, and her sister said, your niece doesn't need you taking all the attention away when you go into this graduation. It's her day, not your day. So leave your cane in the car. And she was like, but I need my cane to walk. She was like, you'll be fine. Just leave it in the car. So after going back and forth for 10 minutes, she finally leaves it in the car, and they get to the graduation, and she's huffing and puffing and having a horrible, horrible pain experience. And her sister's like, well, you know what? See, I told you didn't need it. Well, she could have been having she could have been having a better experience if she didn't give in to that guilt. If she said, no, this is a tool so that I can live more life. It's not to take attention away from whatever event we're going to or what's happening. It's so that I can be there and enjoy it and live it with you. And, you know, for her to understand that and for her sister to put that pressure and guilt on her, I see why people choose not to use their mobility devices. But for me, it gives me more life, and I'm going to take that so that I can keep living. That's what we're here on earth to do.
Oh, what if she had fallen or something? Talk about taking attention away.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And her sister had, at the end of the night, her sister had to go back, get the car by herself and come back and pick her up because she couldn't make it back to the car. So that type of thing happens.
Wow.
I find too, though, like my father, he now uses his walker or his cane, but for the longest time he didn't want to. He had 3 strokes in 1 year. And so his mobility was like, he's really, it's great. He's not paralyzed anywhere, but the mobility aspect because of the balance. But for him, it wasn't really about other people, it was for himself. He didn't like the thought that he was losing that mobility, that because he was so active. I mean, he was, you know, doing black diamonds on skis at 83, and then suddenly that's taken away. For him, it was like, I'm going to prove I can get through this without it. And then he got to the point where he realized what you were saying, that yes, he does need it. And how that happened is he was going for a walk with my sister and he fell down. And my sister, of course, had a hard time getting him back up again. And from that point on,
Right.
he said that was a burden to the person with him. So then he started using his walker. But it was more, I guess, pride, but also a denial of that. If that makes sense.
Absolutely. And it totally makes sense. And that denial, again, it stems from, I don't want to be a burden on others. I don't want to be seen as less. I don't want to be seen as lazy. But when it comes down to it and you need help, if the people around you can't help and you could have done something to prevent that, it's going to eventually change your mind like it did with your father. And it definitely is something, you know, as a society that we can say, hey, it's okay if you need that scooter, that walker, that cane, you know, whatever it is, if you need bathroom bars so that you don't fall in the bathroom, you know, doing simple things, take those tools. They're created for our benefit and to give us life. And, you know, I think just having the conversations and setting expectations of, hey, look, I just want you all to know if I didn't need to use this for my safety, that I wouldn't be using it. Like, have that kind of conversation, or just make that statement, and then you can feel better about yourself needing the tool, and the other people around you can say, all right, they're not doing it for attention. They're doing it because they literally have a safety issue, have a pain issue, they have something going on in their life, and this is letting them live. And this is a chance for us to spend more time together that's meaningful. And, you know, I kind of split my days up into energy pennies. And each activity that I do, like a healthy person, you don't have to keep track of your energy pennies, but someone with a chronic condition, you only get so many energy pennies in a day. So you have to just decide, how am I going to spend these energy pennies? And if using that tool gives you more energy pennies to spend on doing an activity that helps you be social and spend time with other people, the better it will be for everybody, because you get to spend those energy pennies in a way that is creating human connection.
You know, I would think, so you were talking about being a cheerleader. I think, Lorianne, you were a cheerleader as well, weren't you? Right? Okay. So you're out there, you're in front of everybody, you know, like I say, very social and all that. And then to not be able to do that has got to really be a big adjustment, a mental adjustment.
It is a mental adjustment. And I used to be a physical cheerleader, and the adjustment that I made was to become a mental cheerleader. So I say I'm a cheerleader of hope. And that's something that cheerleaders, even when you're physical, you do provide hope that your team that you're cheering on will do better, do the right play, good defense, whatever it is you're cheering them for. But when it becomes mental, it is a process, and it is a loss. It is a loss of your old life, what you can accomplish now in your new life, coming to terms with that. And it's a grieving process. You do go through the grieving process. You do lose supporters around you, friends, family. I was lucky. My family they didn't understand what I was going through, because I didn't even understand what I was going through, but they knew I wouldn't give up the life I had created for myself and worked so hard to obtain. And so I had their support, although limited, because none of us had an expectation set. Whereas it came to friends and coworkers, all they could see was Barbie's not able to do her job anymore. I was the head coach at a university, a Division 1A university. There's a lot of physical demand in that. And I also own my own cheerleading and dance training company, a lot of physical demand as well as business savvy that's needed. And it was gone very quickly. I say an 8-second accident changed my life. And it took me 3 years to get a proper diagnosis. And in that time, I had to readjust my thinking, my beliefs. As an athlete and as a coach, it was, oh, suck it up, get back out there. You can do it. Why are you whining? Don't be a sissy baby. Get back out there. And I had to fully switch my thinking and how I perceived myself and the world around me. And if I went back and coached now, I would be a totally different coach. I would pay attention. I would be more patient. I would definitely give more time for injuries and healing, and more understanding, and not just say push through the pain, because you can create, when it becomes chronic, it's a chronic condition, illness, injury, it can create pain pathways that even after the injury is healed, you're still feeling pain. And what can we do in that time where you are healing to not reinforce the pain pathways to stay on, and to get the person back to the best they can be without causing further damage? And that's, again, not how society is built, and especially in the athletic world, not what we're trained to do. So I would definitely do it a lot differently now that I have that mental understanding of what you go through.
It's interesting because I know some people have daughters that are in volleyball, competitive, high, volleyball. And a lot of them have injuries and pain from their volleyball years.
Absolutely. And it's a pain. Volleyball, you're slamming into that ground almost daily for digs and saves of the ball and the volley, and it is extremely painful. And yet we had at the collegiate level I was on, and coaching, we had team doctors and team trainers. They didn't even understand or seem to understand chronic pain, and so it was just the stigma and the atmosphere. And the doctors were able to treat these small injuries, or after you get out there and perform this event, and then we'll put ice on you, we'll put heat on you, we'll do massage therapy, and they'll do little things like that just to get you enough talent and lower the pain enough mentally and physically, if they can, to get you back out there again. Like, that is the goal, get back out there. And oh, your ankle's broken, like Carrie Strug in the Olympics. She did that vault. She wanted to do it, but how much of her wanting to do it, not realizing what that could do for her future and ability to walk and all of that. Same thing with volleyball, soccer, track. Most injuries, cross country track has the most injuries of all the sports, but they're all little injuries. At the time they seem minor, but then as they progress and they get older, those injuries come back to haunt them and cause them the most damage. So had we taken control and understood, oh, maybe for cross country, we shouldn't be making them go through these sprained ankles and hurt knees, and the volleyball players get, a lot of years they didn't even wear knee pads and elbow pads and suffered major injuries that they were able to push through when they're in their teens and 20s, but by their 40s and 50s, they feel like they're 80.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you mind sharing a little bit about your illnesses that you're going through?
Sure. So the one that affects me the most is called reflex sympathetic dystrophy. Reflex is anything in your body that's automatic, kind of goes haywire. So you're blinking, you're swallowing, your internal organs stop functioning. For instance, one day I was eating dinner and I was totally fine and dinner was great. And within 45 minutes of dinner, my gallbladder had died. And I was in the hospital screaming in pain from my gallbladder dying just because there was the blood flow to it got cut off. The sympathetic part of RSD is pain. That's the chronic pain part of it. And that is like someone put lighter fluid in your veins. It's going through your body and then they lit that lighter fluid on fire and you feel like you're on fire. And there's other pains that come and go, but that fire pain is the hardest to manage and the hardest to live with. And it's constant 24 hours a day. And then dystrophy is loss of muscle and bone. And that's why I spent 7 years in a wheelchair before I was able to get the proper treatment that got me walking again. And I still have to use my wheelchair and my scooter at some points, or a cane, different mobility devices when I come in and out of remission or injure myself, because I'm not cured, I'm only in remission. So the condition constantly is attacking, and it attacks in many different ways. But I do have at least a couple of treatments now that are able to help me live more life in between the flares, as we call them. So RSD, that's the worst one. But I also have migralepsy, which is a type of epilepsy. I also have gastroparesis, where my stomach doesn't function like a normal stomach. Dystonia, where my body locks up and it's difficult to move, especially the right side of my body. And hypothyroid, endometriosis. And I also have been treated for PALB2 breast cancer, which is a genetic form of breast cancer. So I have to constantly be watched for new growths. And I have 3 markers in my left breast to help them identify the areas that are most suspicious. So there's a little rundown.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So you're also a speaker, correct?
I am.
An advocate for people with chronic pain.
Yes. And I am not a doctor, but I actually do teach doctors. So doctors get continuing education hours for listening to me do my presentations and speak on a variety of topics, chronic pain related, and more specifically, nerve pain related and autoimmune, because RSD is a neuro autoimmune condition.
Wow.
I became an expert in it.
I mean, I don't know. It's pretty incredible that you got such a good outlook with all the stuff you have gone and are going through, and looks like you're going to be going through.
Yeah, I will continue to go through these health challenges for the rest of my life. I say God gave me looks, not, or he gave me beauty, not health. So thank goodness I have something that's a talent. But yeah, I will face it for the rest of my life. And I literally have to take it moment by moment. Time has changed for me. It's not a 24-hour day anymore. It's moment by moment. And what can I do in this moment to be the best that I can be? And every moment looks a little different.
If you don't mind me asking, are you married? Do you have children?
I am not able to have children, and I am married. This is my second marriage. My first marriage, I was the worker and the breadwinner, and my husband was a stay-home husband with no children or pets. So he had a pretty easy life. But when I got sick, it fell apart. I couldn't hold it together, along with trying to keep my jobs. I was clawing to try to hold on to everything, and everything fell apart around me. And he didn't want to go to work. He didn't understand that, life wasn't always going to be so easy for him. and we didn't really have answers, so I couldn't set an expectation with him. And God had a better plan for me and brought me my husband, who met me at my sickest. And well, actually, I wasn't at my sickest yet, but I was on my way to being my sickest. And we kind of discovered it together. We learned and grew and fell in love with each other at our worst. And if he could see the good in me when I couldn't see the good in me, I knew that he was he was the one for me. And so with that, and with endometriosis, he knew from the start. With my first husband, we didn't know I wasn't going to be able to have kids when we were married. But with my second husband, we knew from the start that we wouldn't have kids, but we could use our life to be purposeful and help people outside of our marriage live better lives through the work that we do as advocates, and him as a caregiver advocate and me as a patient advocate. And so that's what kind of became our baby, and how we're helping the world.
Wow, you guys are fortunate that you found each other.
God brought him to me. And my name's Barby, and my husband's name is Ken. So we're Ken and Barby.
That's good.
There's a time in my life where I needed signs, and God was like, I'm going to give you the biggest signs I can give you so that you don't have to like stress or worry. You have enough to think about. So he started dropping big boulders in my lap, and one of them was an awesome husband named Ken, who is one of the most amazing humans that I've ever met.
Oh, that's just a classic, perfect.
Right?
So tell us a little about your books.
Sure. So I have 9 books. They're on chronic pain, dealing with the healthcare system in the United States. And also I have some on motivation, relationships, keeping your relationship strong when one of you is living with a chronic condition. My favorite book of all of them is From Wheels to Heels, which chronicles my journey through the healthcare system, giving examples and photographs and things that I've gone through, as well as each chapter ends with about 10 to 20 tips on things that other people can do in their life to live a little bit easier and make their life a little bit better. And that's my favorite book. And it's Heals, Heals, because it's a play on health, yeah. Heals versus high heels, although I am pictured in high heels, because one of the things that I did when I went into remission was get a pair of high heels, because I hadn't really worn shoes in so long, not being able to walk, that it was like a celebration of me and finally wearing heels. Although now I am known for wearing flip-flops and reverted back to those because they hurt less than high heels.
Oh, that is great. Are your books available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, everywhere?
Yes, they're available everywhere, and they're not carried in every bookstore, but they're available in every bookstore. And all you have to do is go in and they can get the book delivered to their store within a couple of days, because they're kept in like large warehouses that they are able to access with ISBNs and USP numbers, UPC numbers. So, and they're also available at the Library of Congress and at many libraries across the US, Canada, and the UK.
Oh, great. Golly. Wow.
Not that people go to libraries anymore, but
I'm surprised. My daughter said, if you ever need to find a place that's nice and quiet, she absolutely loves libraries. She's a total advocate for them. It's a nice getaway.
Yeah, my son used to study at the library and at Denny's.
In Denny's. Yeah, the library I'm sure is quieter. And you don't get that freshman 15 sitting there, that you would get at Denny's sitting there eating all day. You smell all this food, it would just, I don't know about you guys, but I would constantly be eating if I was around the smell of food all day.
Yeah, he said they would go to Denny's at night and drink coffee and study.
Yeah, very good.
So, Lorianne, did you have anything else?
I really don't. I find this fascinating. I think, Barbie, it's wonderful, what you're doing to bring awareness. And again, it's something too, there may be people out there that are, you know, too ashamed to talk about it or to reach out to people. And it's good to know that you're helping them to say, you know, don't feel guilty, like you said, and don't feel any shame or anything, and that there is a place to go and to, you know, so I appreciate that.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, there is great reason for hope because there is help. People just have to reach out and seek it. And that is really usually the thing that stops them, is they feel like nobody would want to help them. Nobody would be willing to offer a resource or a moment, and know that there is help. And if you ask one person and they say no, it's the beginning of a negotiation. You just need to find another way. And there's other people out there that will help and that are willing.
Yeah.
And where would they get more information, Barbie? If you can just let our listeners know, where will they find
Thank you so much. For me, they can find me on my website, which has all my social media links, barbyingle.com. It's not creative, it's just my name. And then if they have questions or needed more information about getting treatment or resources, you can go to, on chronic pain conditions, you can go to internationalpain.org, and that helps with chronic pain, physically, mentally, or spiritually. We have resources for all three areas. So feel free to reach out to International Pain Foundation as well.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I just want to make it clear to our listeners, if you're driving in the car, you don't have time to put it on paper. It's Barbie with a Y, and then Ingle, I-N-G-L-E.
Correct.
Yeah.
Thank you. And for your listeners, I want to say, you guys are awesome. I've been following you for a while now, probably like 7 months, and seeing how you guys have come and listened to some of your other episodes. And I feel like you guys are doing an amazing job. I appreciate you helping lift our stories. And if you're listening now, I implore you, please go give a 5-star rating to Lori Ann and Roy. Let them know that you're hearing them, you're hearing the guests, and that you enjoy it as well. Let them know what you are getting out of this, and that they should continue with what they're doing, because they're doing a great service for all of us.
Well, thank you so much.
Very appreciated. Thank you so much.
Appreciate that. So we might like to have you on again at some point.
No problem. I would love to come back. There's always new things coming down the pipeline in the world of chronic pain, and things that people can do to tackle the different challenges that they face. So I'd be happy to come back anytime.
That'd be great.
Great. Because I would imagine, like, chronic pain, there's such a huge scope of it. And even some have chronic pain that they're embarrassed to even say, because they're saying, well, like I have TMJ and tinnitus, and it's an everyday thing. And it's chronic, but I don't complain about it or anything, but yet it can be frustrating. So to let people know too, that it's okay to say, yes, I have this, is what I'm saying, instead of denying it, hiding it. Because I think talking about it also helps to say, because then you find out, wow, I'm not alone. There's a whole bunch of other people have the same thing as I do.
Well, you think about it, there's a lot of people out there that, quote, suffer in silence.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And just to let you know, Lorianne, I actually have TMJ disease and osteoarthritis in my jaw, and on both sides. And there's actually a device that a neurodentist created. And so I can send you the information about that. It might be helpful. It's just one option, but there are options out there. And until you say some magic keywords and other people hear it, you wouldn't have that option to know what's out there and what's coming down the pipeline. So, it just takes, hey, mentioning this. And 1 in 3 people in the United States, 1 in 5 worldwide, that's 1.2 billion people, 1.3 billion people worldwide are living with a condition that causes chronic pain. So it's you or somebody you know. And unless we speak up and share, even in a small situation, setting, sentence, that's when you get hope and you get help, because, hey, you just mentioned something, and oh, by the way, so-and-so was talking about that, and there's other things that might be able to help. And it might not be the same for everybody, but know that there is a lot of options out there for us.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being our guest.
Oh, glad to be here. Thank you.
Take care.
All right.